So good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me here. And I think it's a great day to have a conversation about the things that we care a lot about. Just to start off, I have a lot of friends who are doing businesses, and whenever we have a catch-up session with them, they'll ask me, hey, Ho, what business are you in? What business do you do? And I tell them that I'm in the business of transforming lives, as with all of us here, right? Usually we don't associate higher education with business, but looking at the mission of the value of higher education. So it is with this perspective or angle that I'm coming at, where we should prepare our kids today, our young people today, for life after the university, for life in the industry, for life at work, right? And I'm happy that, in one of Munira's slides, you have put that, tools like ChatGPT are just a learning aid, right? It's just a learning aid that we must equip our young people today so that they can function well, they can thrive in the workplace. And for young people, kids today are wired to do such things. I just give you an example. I have, my third kid, when he was smaller, when he was 2 or 3 years old, he has an iPad. And as good parents, I will control the use, the timing, right, on the iPad, as many of you would, right? So I didn't want to give him the passcode or the password. And guess what, he knows Siri is there in the iPad. He says, he just tap on the Siri and he just say, Siri, can you please unlock the iPad? And he was asking me why it doesn't work. I said, of course it doesn't work, right? So, kids these days are so smart, they can do this. And so that's the perspective that I'm coming from. So I personally, I believe that, ChatGPT or, in the more general context, generative AI or Gen AI has actually transformative impact, provided that we use them responsibly. So that's the key word, responsibly and ethically. So this is where I'm coming from. This is where I'll approach this talk. Usually when I do talks, I like to gauge the sentiment of the audience. How do you feel about generative AI? So I'll start with the optimistic first. Anyone? Don't think too much. Wow, that's great, that's great. Okay, fantastic. Pessimistic? It's a great crowd, right? Nobody is pessimistic. You are here to learn, right? If you are pessimist, you will not be in this hall, isn't it? Right. Okay, so that's great to hear. Now, there is a survey done by EduCourse. So EduCourse, you go to educourse.com, there are a lot of members. It's actually an association of both institutions and people and academic staff. So they run what they call a quick poll in February 2023. There were 830. So they sent out the polls to all their members, their groups, and so on. Majority are academic staff. So here is what they say. In February, yeah. So February was just 4 or 5 months after ChatGPT coming out, right? And if you look at the next follow-up survey that they have done in April, so it's a period of 2 months, right? Period of 2 months. And the number of people who are optimistic, like all of you here, have increased. And for the details, I've just put down there the footnote. You can actually look at the details there if you want to look at more. I'd like you to put up your hands again. How are you using Gen AI? I have used Gen AI for my work. I've used it for writing my papers. I've used it for creating my exam papers. One of the universities in the African continent, I've just recently spoken to them. They asked, can I just enable or equip their lecturers? And one of the strong comments that came is that ChatGPT will make you stupid. That's the verbatim word, right? I don't like to use the word stupid, but that's coming from a few of the academic staff, right? This is one of the national university in one of the African countries. So my mission was to change their mind. So the vice chancellor was telling me, can you please help me change their mind? So I was there on the seminar, and this was one of the initial comments that I got. So this again is from the same poll. Like all you good people here, many people have used it. Now, what are the driving forces? And what are the driving forces that you have used it? But when I speak to a lot of other universities in other emerging countries, they seem to have some fear. They seem to have some question mark. Should they ask students to use it? And I just tell them that whether you use it or not, Gen AI. I'm just looking at not only ChatGPT, but so if you look at from November 30th to March 30th, some fantastic development, right? I wake up every morning, I check my mail, there's something new coming. So this is as of March 30th. And just last week, I read an article, a very interesting article in the Nature journal, published on the 25th of October. A group of researchers from New York University has proposed the next generation of reasoning. It's called MLC, Meta Learning for Compositionality. It's a mouthful, but I mean, if you read the technology, when you look at it, it actually tries to mimic the systematic generalization that humans have, that ChatGPT and so on doesn't have now. Right? You can check out that paper. So it's coming at high speed, right? Full speed. It will hit you whether you want to go onto it or not, right? So this is one of the driving forces. So being academics, Munira was mentioning academics and scholars. So one of our key missions is to prepare our kids, our students, right, for the marketplace. And if you already are not convinced, what will be the impact of such tools in the employment market, we have to start taking cognizance now. I just pulled this survey from, this is a very recent survey from McKinsey. They did a survey among their verticals and their clients and so on. What is the effect of technology, especially Gen AI, on the number of employees that they will have? The dark blue part is actually reduction in headcount. The question is, what are the skills that we need to train our graduates, right? I started off working in the software engineering industry. If you look at software engineering 20 years ago, compared to now, it's completely different. Now we are talking about low code. And with ChatGPT and the likes, it could be zero code. And I know there are a lot of universities, APU included, yeah? We have a lot of software engineering students, right? So, what do we do? So think about this, in your own very disciplines, yeah? Of course, fear for losing out, right? Munira was talking about, research, publishing a lot of papers and so on. I think Prof. Go will be mentioning more later on, right? And I'm also quite interested to hear from him, right? So people are starting to use this to churn out papers. If you don't use it, there's fear of losing out, right? So these are some of the driving forces that I'm sharing here based on my conversation with many people, with students, with colleagues, with partners from other universities as well. So what are the typical use cases? Again, I like this. It's not my diagram. I just take it from, I just borrowed it from EduCourse. And it sort of nicely, maps out what are the key use cases. Number one is dreaming. Anyone likes to dream? Yeah, of course, all of us like to dream, right? So brainstorming, summarization. I won't read it from the slides, but I think you can read it. Drudgery. For us in academic style, a lot of, sometimes they complain, a lot of administrative work, right? So that's drudgery. If you are in governance, regulatory, and so on, development, using it to develop policies, right? Design, creating your presentations and so on. For those who are working in university, you know what's ODL program, right? Do you know what is the requirement to submit, whether you are self-accredited or not? Do you know what's the requirement to submit an ODL program to MQA for your provisional accreditation? Nafis is laughing already, right? So you need to submit the complete, what they call self-instructional materials, digital content for the first semester, whether it's undergraduate or what, right? So if you have a lot of learning designers around, you're all fine, right? You're good. And if you have a lot of lecturers who are capable of developing content, well, you are set, right? But the question is, how can we do it faster? How can we do it faster? So there are a lot of tools now, which we are using as well in my university, where you don't need a camera anymore to create a video for lessons. You can use tools like Pictory.ai and so on. So those are the kinds of things that will increase your productivity, right? And we can roll out, content, quality content. Of course, there must be some QA and so on, at a faster rate. So that's content development for you, right? So content development will not be the same anymore with such technology. And this is one of my favorite tools because, in the very little spare time that I have, I still try to do programming because I love programming. I still do software development. I still do a bit of consulting for some of the industry if they ask me to do something. So this is, of course, Anaconda. Those in computer science, this is one of the key Python tools. And guess what? I now have a co-pilot that's on the right-hand side, right? So for those in computer science, you know what I'm talking about. I hate regular expressions, can never memorize them or whatever. So I don't need a book anymore. So I just ask my co-pilot, hey, I have this, I want to represent something using this. Can you please give me the regular expression? I just plug it in. So this is co-pilot. So the way that we teach even programming, whether in school or in tertiary education, will change, right? And I'm not as good as researcher as Prof. Go here after he will show you what he can do, but Whenever I start now with reading a research paper, I ask, can you please give me a high-level summary first for me to get a big picture, right? And this is actually Copilot, Microsoft Copilot. So if you have a subscription to either A3 or A5 for Microsoft subscription, you will have an enterprise version of Copilot. They just switched the name to Copilot. Before that, it was Bing, right? So it loads directly into your Edge browser side pane. And you can read any PDF file or text or even image that you open in the browser. So just a summary of the areas of application, right? I've gone through one summarization, right? I think you know what summarization. What is interesting is assessment. Just 3 weeks ago, a few of my lecturers came to meet me and came into my office and asked, can I use things like ChatGPT to summarize my students' essay? And is there a way to automatically grade them? Well, I told them that tools are there, but you have to pay for it. But, before you do that, come and validate it with me first. Okay, so there are some possibility, and tools are already out there. I can't remember what is the tool, but it's there. I've seen it. I've tested it as well. Collaboration and interaction. One of the most boring subjects that you can have in computer science, and I think Graham will know, he may disagree with me, is it's actually theory of computation, right? Students find it so dry. When you go into automata theory, Turing machine, they find it so dry. So what I've taught my theory of computation lecturer do is that use ChatGPT, ask them to gamify the entire concept of automata. Let the students run some activities and come up with the recipe for you. So you can do that. It's quite neat. Try it, right? Okay, but what are the students saying about Gen AI? So I'm just sharing with you 2 very recent surveys, and the references are down there. Okay, so the first one is actually done by KPMG. The survey is done May 17 to 29. They surveyed about 5,000 plus Canadian young people, aged 18 and above. There are many statistics. I just pull up the interesting ones so that for you to ponder. Okay, so fine. I think all our students are using Gen AI one way or another, right? So 52% of them are using. But look at the second point, right? Students who use tools like this, even though the lecturer say, yeah, you can use it for a particular purpose, 60% of them say that they feel that it's cheating, right? At least there's some conscience there, right? Okay, thirdly, it may be alarming to you. Just look at the third point. 68% say that their grades improved after using. Now, don't jump to conclusion, right? They may be doing good works, right? So you look at it and you think about it. 46%, about half, claim whatever they submit is their own original work, even though they use some sort of AI behind. Okay? Yeah, it's good that for the teachers here, you can survey your students and see what's the response. Okay, now moving to Hong Kong, that's at the bottom. So the research paper is there at the bottom there, right? So 400 UG and PG students surveyed. And these are, so benefits we know about the challenges, accuracy and transparency. So students know when they use ChatGPT, accuracy and transparency. When I use ChatGPT to generate codes for me, the codes don't run. Why? Because there are different versions, conflicts, this and that. Holistic competencies. Remember the comment from the African University? Makes you stupid, but sorry, pardon me for my word, but that's what they say, right? Uncertain policies. So some universities, students don't know whether they can use, whether they can't use it, where they can use it, when they can use it. So, I think Beverly will be talking about policies later on, right? So when can do, so how do we do that, right? Okay, finally, I think it's not finally, I think we still have some slides. The warning has not gone up yet, but. So how do we position our assessments? So this is very key, right? So as educators, we need to rethink how we do assessments of students, okay? And we certainly don't want students to be at in the box with the 3 question marks, right? Where the piece of work that students submit has low human contribution and low AI contribution. So that means students are not doing work, right? They just don't submit, okay? And we certainly don't want students, we don't want to, design our assessment so that students can be in the red box, do it for me. High AI contribution, but the students not putting in any effort at all. So the challenge to educators like us is actually, how do we create assessments so that we are in the top 2 quadrants, right? Where we have students put in a lot of work and also there's high AI contribution. So that is the challenge to all of us. I don't have the answer. It may be very discipline specific, but this is a challenge to all of us now. Responsible use, I just want to highlight a few things before I end. Be aware, right? I mentioned earlier on when I started that being responsible is important. Be aware what are the harmful activities that you can do. I was recently talking at a cybersecurity conference, And I gave them a demo, how do I write a malware code with just one line of prompt possible for those who are initiated, right? Generating personalized phishing content. You know phishing content, right? Gets into your email. And a lot of phishing content before this sounds very robotic, right? So what I did was I asked ChatGPT, can you please make it more personal? Because I know Nafis, right? I know him, he likes this, and so on. Please put that in part of the phishing email. So you can do that, right? Of course, generating deep fakes, and so on. So this is very important. This is a very nice research area, a cross between technology and also social science, justice. So there are biases in large language models as with any AI models. And I just pick up some of the key points. And it's not new, right? So this paper was published in ICML, one of the top conferences in machine learning, in 2021. And these are just two examples that I pick up for you, right? So remember, so female names are more likely to be associated with family and male names with career. Not true, right? But because of how the data is trained, okay? Of course, there are ways to mitigate this. Secondly, African American names tend to be associated with unpleasant words. This is not my word, this is the research done by these guys here. And they are key researchers in this area. So when students use ChatGPT to generate text, content, and so on, they need to be educated that, hey, look at the content. Assess it for yourself. Show you some pictures of, this is not ChatGPT, of course, this is DALL-E 3. And I use the DALL-E 3 in Microsoft to generate, I just put the prompt, the pilot, right? Okay, so let's look at the next slide, and you tell me what's the difference. Huh? This is the DALL-E 3. I use another one, Stable Diffusion, Dream Studio. Same prompt, I gave it the same prompt. What's the difference? Just gender stereotype, right? This is all male. I think DALL-E 3 overdid it, now all female. No, I'm joking. So they have built in some safeguards, to address these issues, but problems still persist, right? I purposely give. Okay, so how do we empower students to be responsible users? These are the 4 steps that I personally do, and I get my academics to do. Number 1, talk to industry, because that's where the students will end up. How is Gen AI, how is ChatGPT, DALL-E, and all these sort of things are changing the professions? Number 1, because students need to know, right? Number 2, talk about academic integrity. I see a lot of, including Monash. I think Monash, you have a very nice write-up and guidelines in terms of how you can use it, how you can cite it, right? Well, legal and ethical issues about Gen AI. For art students, right? What happens to the copyright? And more importantly, how students can use Gen AI tools in various courses. So this is where each lecturer will need to put on the thinking hat and look at the subject matter and where students can use it, right? If you don't know where to start, you can always ask ChatGPT. I tried it before, it worked. Hey, ChatGPT, can you please give me an assignment where students will be able to use ChatGPT as part of the assignment and tell me where is that part possible, right? I've tried it before. So just a quick sharing of what we do at APU for Gen AI. We have done the guideline for students, so students can use it confidently and safely, beginning of this year. And communication is very important. What we did was that we had a few series of brown bag series. The first series I was talking to students and staff. The second was a debate between students. So we get students to debate among themselves, to use or not to use. So generate interest and generate all the key points, right? And a team of us went to, just recently, I think last week, there was a roundtable, UNESCO and the Commonwealth of Learning on generative AI. So we were trying to pitch policy guidelines and so on to help people. And we did Gen AI assisted writing, but before we did that, we make sure that we gave a very significant treatment. We gave a significant treatment on ethics of writing. So for those who want, right? And we have trained close to 500 people. These are academics from APU and also from non-APU on how to use AI-assisted writing responsibly. And finally, we also believe that to share our know-how, I think all of us can, right, to engage other parts of the education spectrum. So just this Saturday, so we have a UNESCO chair at APU on digital learning. So we sort of brought awareness to kindergarten teachers through this the Malaysian Association for Kindergartens, right? So we have a workshop for all the teachers, those who want to come, to learn about, hey, what's going on with ChatGPT, how it affects students and so on. And the one on the right, we also work with the government of the Emirates. So we are training their school teachers as well on Gen AI. This particular one is actually on administrative productivity, how school administrators can leverage the benefit of Gen AI. So So this is part of our contribution to society at large. Okay, so thank you. Any questions?
Thank you, Professor Ho. Now, so any questions, please raise your hand. Yes, state your name, please.
Good morning, everyone. So actually, I'm quite interested in AI using for the teaching. You know what I'm thinking? Because I'm a researcher as well. If the teaching load is high, you have no time for research. So I'm thinking of, can I using AI to replace me to go to the lecture? So do you think this is a good idea? Or it make me stupid also?
Okay, I'm going to ask the crowd this question. Right? Who thinks she has a good idea? Come on. I'm sure you do, right? Okay, let me answer it in this way. Earlier this year, I was in Korea. I was in Korea. I have quite a number of university friends in Korea. And, one of them started to show me, look, this is a virtual influencer. You know what is an influencer, right? In YouTube, in TikTok, now it's Xiaohongshu and so on. And I asked, wow, that girl looks nice, pretty, right? Then my friend told me, no, don't be fooled. This is not a human influencer. This is a virtual influencer. Looks exactly like human. So the top virtual influencer in Korea has about 13 or 14 million followers. So that is there. So if you imagine putting a virtual influencer and using ChatGPT to generate whatever that you want to say to students, maybe students will like it. They see their favorite pop star as their lecturer, right? But the content and the brains is from you. I'm just imagining what could be possible. But of course, I think no one can take that teacher away from a student, right? I personally believe in that, okay? Right, so technically it's possible, right? Technically it's possible. But of course, there's also another way to go around that. Focus on your teaching, and Prof. Go here can tell you how to use Gen AI to increase your research productivity, but you focus on teaching.
Thank you. Any other questions from the room? Please raise your hand. Yep.
Prof. Farouk from the Petra Group. Now, in one of your slides, you talked about the biasness of AI and ChatGPT or whichever of the AI language models, right? But surely these biases are a reflection of society. I mean, at the end of the day, we've heard already that AI is a tool. Now, surely how this tool is used and all that is a reflection of our values and all that in society. Perhaps you could comment on that.
Thank you. So this issue, this bias, is not only applicable to generative AI, but I've been monitoring this issue from 2017. I think there's a huge number of research efforts that you can see. And what you say is right, because the data that we use to train our systems, who generates the data? Humans, right? And so the data that we have, fed into the system actually encodes whatever cultural norms or biases that we have because we generate the data. Okay? So there is, of course, an area where we look at few things. Actually, we call it the FAT, F-A-T, fairness, accountability, and transparency. So these are the three key main things of within the sub-area of trustworthy computing that a lot of AI researchers are working with people, with social scientists, with the law fraternity to look at, because surprisingly, for a human to say, well, Prof. Nafis is fair, it's easy, right? But mathematically, how do we encode that into our systems? It's challenging, because not all, even though if you can have 5 rules of fairness and put it in the system, but mathematically, not all of them can be true can hold at the same time. So those are the challenges that we face, right? But what you say is correct. Is because of so data is from human. Of course, there are many ways to mitigate it, all right? But once we start mitigating these sort of things, then we get into another area of debate, which is affirmative actions, right? So whether you believe in affirmative action or not, that's another question. But once we start mitigating, then we are stepping into that area already.
Thank you very much, Professor Ho. Yes, we have another question.
Again, Nolila from Bujaya University. Thank you, Prof, for sharing today. Can we go back to one of the slides that says the top header is Gen AI at APU? Yes, the milestones. Given that you started quite early on this engagement, can you share with us who haven't started yet to engage students, what were the do's and don'ts and maybe lesson learned so that we can engage in a much more manner with our students? Thank you.
Thank you. So I think the best way to to educate students, or I wouldn't say educate, but to make them aware, is actually to ensure that they come to a realization. So what we did was, we did a debate. I didn't go and tell the students, hey, you need to do this, you can't do this. So we organized a debate, and there was a huge crowd, students versus students, both postgraduate students and undergraduate students on both sides of the divide. And they started to talk about, why they should use, why they shouldn't use because there are some issues and so on. So let that discovery come from the students. And after that, you can reinforce with seminar or whatever. So it's best for them to, discover for themselves. Because I think sometimes students these days, if you tell them, can you do this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What should I do? But when they themselves are part of the process of discovering, what are the ethical dimensions to using it. So they are more, so that sense of accountability is there. So that's what we did. And with lecturers also. I'm not saying that there is, everything is problem-free. Of course, there are some challenges, right? Yeah. But put in the safeguards, put in tools or whatever. But these days it's maybe just a last comment, we are, you use Turnitin, right? Turnitin can detect a generative AI. But there's another tool that can circumvent everything. Turnitin, GPT-0 and so on. It's called undetectable.ai. It makes your AI text more human. So the other way around, so try it, undetectable.ai. Okay, so anyway, thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Ho.